Hello, guys. We're going to talk about this incredibly powerful, intense, Venus-infused eclipse that's coming up for all of us. October 25th, 2022, and how it may change your life over the 6 months that follow based on your rising sign. And I'm going to talk a little bit, like I always do, about what it might mean in general for the collective. Eclipses are fascinating, intense, wild card energy, and this one and the one that's going to follow in November on the 8th, yes, US midterms, is our humdinger eclipses. So we're going to get going and talk about that. Before we get started, if you're new to my channel, welcome. Please like and subscribe. My name is Lori Lothian. I love to do astrology from the Western tropical style of astrology, not sidereal. And I like to use tools from ancient Babylon and Hellenistic traditions, as well as other astrology styles, but those are my main tools. That said, if you don't know your rising sign and you really need to get the most from today's reading, yes, you can listen for your sun and moon, but your rising will always be most accurate. Then check out my how to calculate your chart video below in my description box. It's free access, and I walk you through a tutorial on how to do this yourself using free online software and whole sign houses. And yes, all astrologers act as if we're talking whole sign. Couple of orders of business before we go into this eclipse. Please listen if you are interested, because I would love you to jump into a couple of things I'm doing. End of the month giveaway, 10 prizes, free readings, half price courses, free courses, everything. Big celebration. I passed 10,000 subscribers. If you want to be on that, tell me in the comments that you're a subscriber, and then you're in the contest and a second ballot. Sign up for my Cosmic Moonshine newsletter, swig of weekly astrology news. This draw is Halloween night. But if you're listening to this before then either being on my newsletter, weekly forecast newsletter every Saturday in your inbox, or telling me in this you subbed in the comments, then you're in the contest. All right, and it's going to be fun. I've got like so many names already collected from you guys. Thank you for participating. My Sky Reader course starts October 15th. If you catch this wave of this before then, come on, jump in. 8 weeks long, super cool live class with me, high touch, Facebook group. It's like be your own astrologer, time your best life. If that sounds interesting to you, come on and join me. It's a fun class. I love teaching live groups of people, and you get content access even if you can't make it for replay, and it's evergreen. Like, you get to keep access to the content on my teaching platform forever. So if you miss even all of the classes, you still have the content, but it's fun to be there live with me and the other students as well. Okay. Business is done, and I am feeling a little woozy. Some of you know I had COVID. I might have been COVID naive. And yes, I'm not vaccinated, but I'm fine now. But almost 2 weeks ago, I got COVID. And the only thing I can say I've left is I don't have my normal mental powers. I'm a little brain foggy still. So I will ask you to bear with me if I'm not as clear as and with it as I normally am. But I'm going to do my best. Okay, so let's talk eclipses, and then we're going to do all signs. You know, eclipses are patterns of change. And I always just say it's like you don't have a steering wheel. You're on a ride without a steering wheel. An eclipse simply means that the light of the moon or the sun is eclipsed. And it happens when we have a new moon. That's called a solar eclipse, and a full moon, which is called a lunar eclipse. And this is something that happens because there is something on the ecliptic called the south and north node. And these are the points at which the eclipses happen. And when the sun and moon are on those points within about 13 degrees to 15 degrees max, you're going to see partial eclipses, and then total eclipses when the sun and moon are on top of the nodes, okay, like right on those nodes. So total eclipses are more powerful for sure. So this one coming up is called a partial eclipse, but it's still significant. So partial, yes, but powerful. So partial solar eclipse. Now, the thing with eclipses is that they also have a lot to do with fated and destined change. And in each of our lives, this eclipse cycle that we're currently experiencing in the Scorpio-Taurus axis that began with a partial eclipse back in November in Taurus around 27 degrees, and will finally peter out with a very partial eclipse in Taurus in the fall of 2023. This eclipse cycle is the kernel of it. I want you to think of an egg yolk, okay? The whites on the shell are the peripheral eclipses that are on the edges, like the one in the fall of 2003 in Taurus, and the one in Taurus in November 27th, 2000 and in November 19th of 2021. But the kernel of eclipses, where the egg yolk is when the nodes are actually fully in the axis of the Taurus and the Scorpio barbells of the sky. Okay, they're opposite signs. All right. And that is like January to next July. So the eclipses within the January to July window are the most intense and the most important. All right, keep that in mind. Number two, the last time eclipses moved through this part of Scorpio and Taurus was back in the kernel of the eclipses, the egg yolk. The intense part of it was between about April of 2003 and the tail end, like late December of 2004. So an 18-month window. All eclipses, the kernel or the yolk is an 18-month window, and they happen roughly 18 and a half years apart. So what I would suggest you do is think to your life, what was going on in my life, April of 2003 through to 2004 end of year. Now, it's a south node eclipse, the south node that did that way back then through through Scorpio, and it is a south node eclipse that we're experiencing October 25th, all right, at 2 degrees of Scorpio. So it has a quality of what the south node represents. It's an area of our life that we're having to let go of something, release. It's a disappointments or endings with a south node. And it's interesting because if you think about it as well, I always think of a south node, wherever the south node is traveling, it's like you have an air loss in the inner tube in the swimming pool, or your tire has a leaky tire and you're losing air. You're losing air in your Scorpio house, in your natal sky. You have 12 houses, and that Scorpio's house, based on your rising sign, is where you're losing the air. There was an eclipse there already, that was back in middle of May the 16th, and it was at 25 Scorpio, full moon eclipse. A little bit different, but it's still an eclipse about letting go, coming to an end, a completion, of fullness, making way for something new in the Scorpio part of your sky. And I'll give you an example for me. All right, so make it real. Scorpio for me is my 10th house of career and visible reputation. And back in 2003-4, I let go of a career path. I had been a operating medium psychic reader, using no tools, just my psychic ability in my 30s. And then I ended up moving to Canada from the US and decided upon the move in 2003 that I would no longer do that for a living. And I ended that career path. Can you make that stuff up? No, because it's a south node eclipse cycle in my house of career. I'm having it again. What is going to, by next summer, leave me as a path of work and career? I think I'll definitely scale way back on my client sessions. I keep telling you guys about that. I think I've done enough field work, so to speak, but all I can say is I can't tell you what will shift, but I can tell you that I'm being asked to let go, release, and surrender an outworn and no longer needed career path. Eclipses are rides. You don't have a steering wheel. Do you think you could steer the roller coaster, the Ferris wheel? No, you can't steer the darn thing. So you don't steer your life where the eclipses are. You hopefully ride the wave of change. I always say ride the eclipse wave. I had an eclipse reading that I was doing. Maybe I'll put it back on. I think I will. So check in my description box for my Surf the Change Wave eclipse reading for only $111. It's a discounted price. I had it on back at the last eclipse season. I'll put it back on because I can help share more detail privately with you how this eclipse cycle, which doesn't really wane until the end of next year, is playing out in your life. Okay, so let's keep going. The other thing I want to point out is that the place where the eclipse is happening is also where Venus sits, and she's in Scorpio, a sign of her detriment. 2 degrees Venus, 2 degrees moon, 2 degrees sun, and then a few degrees away is the south node. Well, this makes this a very Venus infused energy, but Venus is also involved in a gnarly eclipse. So she's not in good condition in Scorpio. She's in a sign of her detriment or debility, and she's in the midst of a gnarly eclipse. I kind of think of corrupted data files. It came to me this morning when I pondered this eclipse. Venus is a data file for love and money and beauty and creativity and sisterhood and friendship and sexuality. and she's corrupted. She's a corrupted data file. Good luck. You know, you stick that stupid stick in your computer and it goes corrupted data. And you're like, what? But those are my photos or whatever. Yeah. So she's got a corrupted data file vibe here. So it's not like I'm looking at, I was just listening to the astrology podcast with Chris Brennan and Austin Kopak, and they were talking about for October. I think Austin's right. You know, does the benefic planet in the throes of an eclipse, like a Jupiter, there was a Jupiter eclipse, and you know, does a benefic help out, or does a benefic get decimated, or does a benefic get damaged? And he went with the damage to the benefic, and I agree. So I'm going to say that I think that there's corrupted money, corrupted love files that will unfold in the wake of this eclipse, and I'll try to be more specific when I get to your sign. The other thing I want to say is that this is happening at the 2 degrees of, and that's the bound of Mars within the sign of Scorpio. Mars is the lunation, the lunation lord. He is the lunation lord. He's the eclipse lord. There's a good and bad side to that. Like Mars is in a very lucky part of the sky during the eclipse. He's sitting with some of the stars of Orion's belt, Al-Nilam, Al-Notak. These are lucky stars. So Mars is in a very lucky piece of real estate in the late degrees of Gemini. All right, that's good news, right? We kind of like that, right? But he can't see the eclipse from where he sits, because even though it's happening in his home sign of Scorpio, in the bound of Scorpio, and bound means Egyptian terms, there's like little mini divisions of each sign, and the first several degrees of Scorpio is Mars's territory. So it's a very Martian piece of real estate. Scorpio is Mars's sign, feminine sign in the bound of Mars. And then Mars is over in Gemini, where he is technically in an inconjunct, which is 150 degrees away, or an aversion, and cannot witness what's happening in his own house. So it's literally like, oh my God, there's an eclipse in my house, but I'm not home and I can't see it. You know, he's too far away, or he's at an awkward angle to perceive it. So I don't think he can do much to help, particularly this gnarly data Venus corrupted eclipse, because he can't see it. And even Mercury is sitting with lucky star Spica and Arcturus on the day of the eclipse in late Libra, and he's too close at hand. He's in a version called a semi-sextile 30 degrees away, and he can't help out either. So I'm going with, this is a pretty gnarly eclipse. I'm not going to pretend it's all like a bed of roses, because other planets are doing other happy things in the sky, which is wonderful. But especially the Mercury with Spica trining Mars in his, you know, happy land of, you know, Al-Notak and Al-Nilam and all the lucky stars of Orion's belt. But that's another story. That's happening over there. What's happening in the Scorpio piece of your sky isn't a happy story necessarily. It's gnarly. Vladimir Putin is most likely a Scorpio rising based on my estimate of his rectified chart. And what does this mean? It's not good for Vladimir Putin. Corrupted peace, even, because Venus is the goddess of peace. And we all want peace in the Ukraine. It doesn't look so good. And Venus has kind of been combust the sun, which is not good either, because she's not visible, but she's protected in her chariot when she was in Libra, combust the sun in the last month. But then she's going into Scorpio and she's still combust the sun and invisible until early December, but no longer protected in her chariot from the sun. Poor Venus. Venus is in rough shape. She's combust the sun, burning up. I'm so hot, I'm burning up. And she's got no protection. She's going to Cazimi the sun, go into the heart of the sun later in the month, October 22nd. So she's just coming out of the Cazimi during the eclipse on the 25th. Cazimi's kind of okay. That's like the eye of the hurricane, but now she's back out and she's tossed around and she's combust and burning in the sun's rays as she's trying to be born as a Venus evening star. And it's a very, you know, soft Venus, but before she gets there, she's invisible, hot, burning up, and in her sign of detriment, and she's in the middle of an eclipse. So Venus is not doing well, does not bode well for peace in the Ukraine and with Russia. It really does not. Any peace there after this eclipse requires Venus to get, first of all, out from underneath the beams of the sun. That will be sometime in the early part of December, and certainly out of Scorpio. All right. So let's get going, and we're going to talk about all signs. I'm going to show you the picture of the sky. One last thing about this eclipse. Okay. One last thing. I like the Sabian symbols. I really think they're cool. And sometimes I like to use them. And I did a Sabian symbol oracle for us today. I did an oracle on the eclipse, and I did also something else. I looked at the Sabian symbol. So the Sabian symbol rounds up to three degrees, always round the Sabians up. So it's a 2-degree eclipse, around to 3 Scorpio, and it's neighbors help in a house raising party in a small village. And it's funny enough, Hillary Clinton has her son on that Sabian symbol, and she wrote the book, It Takes a Village to Raise a Child, right? Kind of cool, isn't it? But it's an eclipse. So it's like a new moon, right? It's a dark sky, and the light of the sun is being partially eclipsed. And therefore, with that Sabian symbol being so positive, is it the reverse? Is it like, yes, it takes neighbors, a whole neighborhood can build a house together, raise a house, neighbor helping neighbor, right? Except that it's eclipse. So could it possibly be interpreted as the opposite? There is not a lot of goodwill amongst neighbors. With Mars in Gemini, the sign of the twins, the mortal and immortal twin, Castor and Pollux, and Mars brings war. It's war between brethren. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but in Ukraine, there are a lot of native Russian speakers in the area that Russia wants to annex, and yet they're all kind of connected because most Ukrainians do speak Russian. Well, not most of them, but 40% do. And, it's like a war between brothers, between neighbors, right? The same thing with Taiwan and China, and the same thing in the United States between the polarity between the left and the right, or the Republicans and the liberals, or what liberals, you always call them something else. I'm Canadian, you know what I mean? Democrats. So this kind of war between brothers is happening with Mars and Gemini. And yeah, so I don't know, this Sabian symbol's daunting. I did pull a Sabian oracle up. Now, Sabian oracles are fun. You can go to a website called Sabian.com or SabianOracle.com, and they've got this feature where you can ask a question, and it's sort of like a Russian roulette of the oracle. It spins and spins, and it gives you a oracle reading. And this is what I got for the eclipse in a random oracle draw. I got the 19 Aries point. Funny enough, it is a Mars ruled eclipse. So Sabian 19 Aries, and it's a magic carpet hovers over the depressing reality of everyday life in an industrial area. I find that interesting because the goddess of beauty is Venus, right? We're talking about a depressing industrial area. I don't know what to say about that, but I just want to say maybe there's a magic carpet silver lining to this eclipse that we will see in the long game story of the eclipse. So had to bring it up just to say I did do that for fun, and see if that will make any sense as time goes on. That's it. We're going to go ahead and do the all signs, and I'll show you the sky. I'm going to remind you as I go through it, each of you, that this is an old story that's been going on much longer than this eclipse. It started with the first eclipse, partial eclipse in November. It wanes with an eclipse in Taurus in the fall of 23. The kernel, the yolk of it, though, is January of this year till July of next year. Okay. So that's the feeling of the most intense essential nature of these eclipses. Let me show you a picture of the sky so you'll know what I'm talking about. And as you can see, this is that corrupted data file Venus with the new moon. And then there's the north node at 13 degrees, making it partial, right? Because that's quite a spread. 11 degrees away. So it's a partial eclipse, not a total eclipse. And you can see as well that you have the energy of Mars, the lunation lord, sitting up here on a happy, lucky part of the sky full of, the Orion's belt stars, and even Mercury on Spica, but they're both in aversion. So if you see, Mercury can look straight across the way to the 3rd house, but the houses he can't see are the ones that are either side of him, and the ones to either side of looking across the way, which is he can't see Capricorn, and he cannot see from his position Scorpio, his own home sign. So Mars can't do much to help out, right? Poor guy, he's really screwed. And yes, you can see how tightly Venus is connected to the sun, because she's just coming out of the 22nd of October, Venus in the heart of the sun as she's being born again. She's a freshly hatched Venus who's trying to be born into a visible evening sky, evening star version of herself in the early December. All right, so let's talk about the sky for each sign, and we will get rolling on that, a larger narrative. So I'm going to go with Aries first. Yeah, it's so traditional. I know, just shoot me already. Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. Guess what? I'm one of you, sort of. I'm a sun and moon, but this is really best off, as I said, for rising signs to listen to. Rising sign Aries, especially, okay? This is a lunation of a new moon eclipse in an 8th house place. So this is about things that are already hidden from your view. It's a house that's in aversion. You can't see the 8th house, nor can you see the 6th house from your vantage point, nor the 12th, or particularly well, the 2nd. So these are aversion houses, but having an eclipse in your 8th house, right, is going to mean that there's something going on over there that you're not really seeing clearly. But it is representing a new beginning because it's a new moon, but it's also an ending because it's a South Node eclipse. So letting go. And it has to do with something to do with shared resources, often with your spouse, or finances you share with a business partner, or something to do with money you can leverage from banks and mortgages and loans and even inheritances. And certainly if you have somebody who may pass in your family system, eclipses in the 8th house can indicate the getting ready of a relative to pass away, or the finalizing of estate matters and things like that. So this is an ending point, though, and a letting go, as well as a beginning and a newness. It's like kind of complicated. Corrupted data file version of Venus is here. You know, she would like to bring the money on here. She would like to bring you more money when she's in the 8th house. She would like to bring you secret love affairs here as well. Secret love affairs are common with Venus and Scorpio, let alone in the 8th house. For some of you Aries, you might be having to deal with some secret love story that is really gnarly in your life, like a corrupted data file, and you got to undo it. You got to bring it to an end, probably. This kind of like secret crush, secret love affair, or money stories that are really not working for you anymore. You realize, you know, it's a corrupted data file and the money thing. You've got to take your money out of that investment, or, you know, write it off, take your losses while you can. Don't wait for it to go to zero, or money that's owed to you from an inheritance is coming through, but boy, is it tough to wring it out of the universe because of that Venus instability here. On the happier upside, I mean, once Venus is visible, she was a part of the seed of an eclipse, and it takes 6 months for an eclipse to show its full force, you know, so it's not a one-off thing, that she may, by early December, as she is visible and no longer suffering in the sign of Scorpio, she may in December be able to bring you your better outcomes financially, or resolve the secret or unrequited love story maybe that's going on behind the scenes of your life, things like that. You know, occult mysteries and magic are 8th house things to do with, you know, learning the art of tarot, talking to dead people, you know, ritual magic, Wiccan magic, kinky sex magic. So all these things are possibly on your plate as something you're looking at in the 6 months that follow this eclipse, because you want to let go of a path. You want to get out of the BDSM community. You want to end your reliance on the other person's money. You want to, you know, get off the dole from government grants or something. I mean, there's just something like that that's coming up here, because, you know, Venus here is definitely at the end of the day still a benefic, right? I mean, she's corrupted, but she's data file Venus corrupted, but still, you know, by mid-December, I would say you'll see some uplift in your money story. But before then, things look pretty dark in a way, or challenging, or obfuscated, or gnarly. That's the best word I can have, is gnarly in the money story of your sky, particularly even tax money, you know, rebates or tax money owed or whatever. These things can be really crunchy for you in the 6 months that follow the eclipse. Go back to May, because you had a lunar eclipse here shining a big flashlight in the month of May at 6 months in this 8th house. Okay, so you might want to go back and look at that as well, because you may be able to see themes that emerged in May of this year, 22, also repeating in the 6 months that follow this particular eclipse. And that's all I got for you. I hope that Aries, for you, rising Aries especially, Mars is your Lord, and it's happening in a Mars ruled house, and Mars in the sky is under the light of all these really lucky stars like Al-Nalam and Al-Natak. Therefore, in a way, maybe Mars can help mitigate this in energy, like the other things he's doing in the sky can make it up for the corrupted Venus data file eclipse in your 8th house. Okay, that's the best I can say here. I know it's not great. Taurus, sun, moon, rising sign, especially Taurus, sun, moon, and rising sign, with your rising sign, sun or moon, anywhere in the first 5 degrees of Taurus. Holy moly, buckle up, hold on to your hat. So you are going through an eclipse cycle that I want you to go back and remember 2003, April to December of 2004, because you're doing it again, right? The same part of the sky. But the eclipses are asking you to surrender, release, and let go of something to do with love, significant relationship, business partnerships. I do know a Taurus rising who had to let go of a corrupt business partner, but this kind of vibe is going on in your 7th house of partners, and also legal contracts as well. And so what's happening is that sometimes, especially for Taurus rising, this eclipse cycle in general, this started right in a partial eclipse last November, is about releasing and letting go of those business partners, those clients, and maybe that significant other relationship that isn't working anymore. There's a leaky tire in the significant other's house. Now, if you were a single Taurus during this time, sometimes the North Node moving through the 7th house with eclipses brings in soulmate relationships, profound karmic destined. You don't have a steering wheel. This thing's coming your way one way or the other, kind of love stories. Okay, so there is that side of it as well. What I'm going to say too is that you might find with this particular eclipse with a corrupted Venus data file, some disappointment in love. Or some disappointment with finances regarding a business partnership, deal, contract, or arrangement. Or you will feel disappointed, but you may not know the full scope of what's really happening until Venus can get her visible non-Scorpio status up and running in early December. So making, of course, October 25th to early December, kind of a bit of a shit show, to say the least, in your business partners, relationships, legal contracts, agreements around money and monies, and love and romance. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing here for you. Go back to May, because there was that eclipse, a full moon eclipse at 25 Scorpio in the month of May, that you may have also been shining a big light into this kind of destined love story for single Taurus risings, and then more like how to let go of the ones that aren't working for those already partnered Taurus risings, sun and moon secondarily. Anything else? Venus is your lunation, Venus is your Lord, and she's in a very difficult spot, Taurus. So it doesn't help you, right? When the lunation, I mean, this full moon, this new moon lunation thingy is happening with a Venus who's getting combust, smithereened under the beams of the sun, no protection in her chariot, and in the middle of an eclipse. It's like she literally walked into a bad rave, right? And now she's stuck there. So for you guys, until she's visible again in early December, you're definitely going through a hard time with your significant love relationships, business partnerships, and money and legal contract stuff. So hang on to your hat. It doesn't last forever. Go back, as I said, to the all signs, 2003 to April to 2004, when I introduced this video. That's the last time you experienced this kind of gnarly tension in your 7th house of significant others. Gemini, sun, moon, rising sign. So you Gemini people are having the event of the eclipse that has happened before, this cycle of eclipses of South Node Scorpio eclipses in 2003, April to December of 2004. Here we go, 19 years later, doing it again in your 6th house. Your 6th house is a house of your self-undoing sometimes, like where you really screw up your own health because you're just not on your game, but it's also where it's a house of sickness. So you can also improve your health here. And a South Node eclipse cycle is often a challenging one for health. So some of you Gemini rising people, I'm a progress rising Gemini now, have gone through some health challenges since the first partial eclipse cycle started up in November. That was in Taurus, but the cycle is hitting this Taurus Scorpio axis back in November. And then in May, there was a big full moon eclipse in your 6th house. Now, for a lot of you, this is definitely a health challenge as well. I mean, even though I'm just a progress Gemini ascendant, I ended up having a SI joint sciatic problem start up in the wake of the full moon eclipse in my progressed ascendant Gemini 6th house. So you might find you've been dealing with some health challenges. The purpose of the eclipse, the ride with no steering wheel, is fated and destined. Some of this is karmic illnesses, but some of it is also just pointing the way to better health because you're having some wake-up calls around your health. And so this eclipse is similar to the one in May. It's going to point you in that direction and give you a new beginning and a new start around health and health protocols. Can also give you a new beginning in work and work protocols, work habits and routines, and workspace, especially if you're employed. A new moon eclipse is definitely an ending beginning vibe, and it will eclipse maybe your job. So some of you Geminis are going to end up having a job eclipsed. Could happen in May as well with a full moon eclipse. Venus is kind of a corrupted data file condition here. She is the exaltation lord of your 10th house of visible career reputation. Not good when she's corrupted. She also runs the show on your independent business enterprise house and your money luck house as well for your 5th house. So she's kind of like, burning up under the beams of the sun in a sign of discomfort in Scorpio, where she doesn't like to be, her debility, exiled from her true home. It can feel probably like you have no enjoyment and pleasure regarding the work you're doing, and it feels like a grind, or you feel like there's a deficit and a leaky tire of enjoyment and pleasure with a female colleague, coworker, or similarly, the same deficit default energy of a leaky tire with financials that connect to your work. You're not getting paid enough. Is it really worth it? Are you getting, is a recompense enough for what you're up to? Those sorts of things. So I would also say that you really can have a lot of karmic stuff happen during this eclipse cycle. So go back to last mid-May 16th when you had the full moon, and then the next one is, as we know, on October 25th. This is a very and there's another one in May next year as well. So let me check the date on the May eclipse, okay? Because I'm not doing the eclipse reading right now. My brain is offline. Yeah, May 5th next year at 14 Scorpio. So, the 6th house, 12th house is an axis, is metacosmos between the worlds, but it's karmic. So a lot of what's unfolding is just karmic shit, and karmic debt repayment plan and karma coming home to roost, right? Good and bad, that kind of thing. So I don't know what to say about that, because what can you do? You either believe in reincarnation and karma or you don't, but it's kind of like that. So yeah, just that karmic clearing is going on, I guess I would say, for a lot of you Gemini. So good luck, Gemini. Wishing you the best in this eclipse cycle. All right, Cancer, sun, moon, but most especially rising sign, especially if your rising sign is in the first 5 degrees of Cancer, or your sun or your moon. Well, it's a trine eclipse to your identity in a sense that it's flowing. It's a nature of Jupiter. Trine's positive, the nature of Jupiter. And so even though it's a gnarly eclipse with a data corrupted Venus, a goddess of money and love, you do have a trine to the identity house of you. So this can be a sign that this is one of the softer edge eclipses, especially if, of course, you're the first 5 degrees of Cancer. It's hitting you in a more positive way, a flowing way. It's your 5th house of children, right? Down here, this is your children. You might find that you have, or your lover, or your sex lover partner, your romantic partner, your independent business enterprise, your speculation, money, luck, lottery tickets, gaming, your leisure travel, and just your enjoyment of life, the house of joy, enjoyment, joie de vivre, inspiration, enthusiasm, vitality for life. Well, you're leaking some of that Cancer risings, especially, right? Because the South Node eclipse cycle here, and yes, you had it before, go back. How was that all leaky for you back in April of 2003 to the end of 2004? Because you're doing some leakage here again, but you're also having to abandon, let go of something, like let go of your children, let them leave the nest, or let go of your focus on your children, or let go of your focus on your lover, or let go of your creative projects that no longer satisfy you, or let go of your independent business if it's a grind, or let go of that pregnancy dream if it's not working out for you right now. Yeah, pregnancy is in that 5th house. So you will feel with maybe this Venus, Venus is in the house of her joy when she's in the 5th house, but she's in an eclipse party. She went to a rotten rave full of drunken people, and she's not liking it there. And she's under the beams of the sun, and she's sweating up bullets, man. She's like hot flashing like a crazy person under the beams of the sun, unprotected. So it's a bad scene for her, even though she's in the house of her joy in Hellenistic tradition. It could mitigate it a little bit. She's in her joy, but she's, she loves to dance at the rave, but she's hating the fact that sweaty bodies are making her too hot. And there's too much, the Molly sucks because it's corrupted Molly and she can't get down with her Molly. That's MDMA. So, rave food. And so long story short, she's not in good shape. And you might feel like a love story is corrupted. A romance is dissolving in a bad way. Your child, something with one of your children is causing you difficulty, or they're having difficulty and you're not really able to support them through it. They could be having all kinds of difficulty, romance difficulty, money difficulty, but you could have romance difficulty and money difficulty here too. This would almost be like winning the lottery ticket, but finding out that you cash it in too late and you're not entitled to collect the money. So whatever. So money corruption in a lucky money house isn't a good thing either. So yeah. Now Venus will be visible again in December, and she'll be out of the beams, and she'll be out of combustion, and she'll be out of the house of difficulty. So you might find a bit of relief around some of this tension with child, lover, money luck, independent business enterprise in December, when she becomes a visible Venus again in the evening sky. Okay. But in the meantime, keep the big picture in mind. There was a full moon eclipse in that 5th house in May. What was changing with your children? I think my sister, who's a Cancer rising, her son moved back in. What was happening with your children? What's happening with your sex life, your lover, your joy, your vitality, your fun, and your money speculation. Okay. That story is in repeat mode. All right, Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign. Go back to 2003, April through to the end of 2004. That's the last time you had this cycle of South Node eclipses through your 4th house of the ancestors, your mother, your family of origin, your childhood, your home that you live in, your private life. And this is a place where you're letting go, you're leaking energy. It's surrender down there, time to let go. Now, for some of you, it's time to let go of a home, time to sell a home, time to move, time to buy it, let go of a property, time to release something with your tension with your mom, trying to surrender your family of origin, childhood, ancestral storylines. The 4th house is a moksha house. It's a spiritual liberation house. It allows you to liberate from your family of origin, ancestral storylines. That's what it does. And is a type of spiritual awakening. So South Node is about the spiritual and not the resourceful material striving of the North. So in India, you could look at the South Node as a place of spiritual opening. So for some of you, Leos, you could be looking at this eclipse cycle, bringing in spiritual awakenings for you. But there's a corrupted Venus here. And don't forget, there was an eclipse in your 4th house in May. So go back to mid-May at 6 months. There was a full moon. What light was shining here in the home life, in the private life, and about your family of origin, childhood, and disconnecting from all those stupid family of origin stories that you were told that you don't have to live by anymore, that your parents told you, that you may now reassess those stories and go, is that true? Maybe money does grow on trees. My dad used to say, money doesn't grow on trees, you girls. And I thought maybe he's wrong. Maybe money does grow on trees. So yeah, so reassessing of the stories from your family of origin as well. Now, corrupted data file Venus energy down here, under the beams of the sun, hot and sweaty, bad rave, crappy Molly, nothing's working for her down here. Just wants to get out of there. Well, you could have tension with a female who's in the home. If you're living with a female of any kind, there could be a feeling of the beauty of your home and the pleasure and the enjoyment of your home is deeply corrupted in the wake of this particular eclipse, and that you can't really find, remember that Rolling Stones song, can't get no satisfaction, but it's in your home, you can't get that satisfaction. And it could be literally too that finances, goddess of money corrupted in the house of real estate and home, are in some way very challenging in the 6 months that unfold from this eclipse regarding things to do with your home. Like you find out you need a new roof, find out you need to replace the hot water heater, you find out you have to do this or that, expenses that come up from your home. Now it's a ride without a steering wheel. There's nothing you can do. You just got to get on that thing and see where it takes you, because ultimately the North Node is pulling you toward focusing on your career and less on your private life anyway, right? I mean, there's a pull towards the 10th house and a pull away from your private, quiet space at home. I think I covered it all. If you're trying to sell a house, this is probably getting an offer that's way under the value that you're willing to sell it for. If you're trying to buy a house, you can't get the price you want for the house. You see what I mean? So you might want to wait this one out. The eclipse itself may last 6 months in its influence window. However, you also have Venus finally getting out from beneath the sun's beams, invisible in the evening sky again in December. Like I think after around December 5th or 6th for sure. And therefore you can also maybe then have some lightening up of some of these concerns and crunchy Venus storylines in your natal 4th house of home, land, real estate, mother, etc. All right, good luck with that, Leo rising, especially Leo rising in the first 5 degrees of Leo, sun and moon as well. You're really getting gnarly squared by this square tension to your story, right? Even squares the house of your marriage. So it's a very intense eclipse for all of for all of the Leos of the world, all of the fixed signs. All right, Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign in your sky. Oh no, am I recording? Will you imagine if I'm not? Oh, thank God. I do this every time because I turn the recording off like to blow my nose or something, and I forget to turn it on. All right, where was I? And I got battery power. I don't want to lose power. Yeah, I'm gonna run low though. All right, Scorpio rising sun and moon people, especially, Virgo, Virgo. If you're Virgo rising in the first 5 degrees, or your sun and moon is in the first 5 degrees, this is a particularly intense eclipse. You're going to feel it, but it's sextile to you. So it's more positive than not. It doesn't actually rock your world the way it will the fixed signs. And what you're doing is you're getting this story that you had back in 2003, April, the end of 2004, of surrender, release, let go, maybe disappointment even, in your 3rd house of siblings. And funny, my daughter's a Virgo rising. She just grumbled about her brother the other day, like she basically is writing him off, persona non grata. But disappointment with your siblings, disappointment with your aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, disappointment and loss regarding your local neighborhood environment, your skills-based learning and education, things you're doing in the local environment, your online world, and 3rd housing you, your skills-based learning, did I say that? Your trips and travel have been like nothing short of yuck, not what you wanted. The short trips and travel haven't worked out the way you planned, that kind of thing. It's a funky place to have an eclipse. There's just so many meanings to the 3rd house. But with a corrupted Venus data file for love, you could say love and enjoyment in your local neighborhood are sucking. Or a corrupted money file here. You wanted to take a course, but it's too much money. You paid, but they didn't get your deposit. Your siblings, because this is a Venus, feminine energy in the house of siblings, has a health challenge or some really difficult challenge with a friend from elementary or high school. The high school and elementary friendships, kind of the childhood friendships, can go into that 3rd house. And so there may not be about you. Every eclipse isn't about you. This may be about a female sibling or a aunt, uncle, cousin. This may be about a local friend or friend from your childhood having a really gnarly experience in the 6 months that follow the new moon eclipse. Okay. And you may just be seeing it from the sidelines. It does make travel and trips, short trips and travel, a bit problematic, not just during the eclipse, but potentially even in the 6 months that follow. Now, Venus will be visible and out of the beams of the sun and protected again from the beams far away enough in early December as she's a visible evening star in the sky. And this can allow you to get some of the more intense tension of this new moon eclipse out of the way. But still, it does seed a story that lasts about 6 months. So what else can I say? Your Lord Mercury is sitting with Spica in a trine to Mars. So even around the time of the eclipse, even though it's kind of intense for everyone, October 25th or so, you're having around that time, October 24th to 27th, some really luscious positivity to cheer you up about your money and career stuff. So it's over there in that 3rd house, things aren't going so well. All right, but things are going much better in your money career area. Okay, just give you guys a bit of hope. All right, a little hope for you. Okay, we're moving forward. Well, I would also say Venus being in such debility, and she is the planet that does bring you. I'm not going to go with that story. Moving on. Libra, sun, moon, rising sign. Venus is the lord of your sign. This is an important eclipse. She's really squished up in a bad rave with bad drugs and no friends there and terrible music. And she's doing that like Scorpio exile with a new moon Scorpio eclipse in your second house. Well, the second house is money and earnings and paychecks and hustle for money and food, shelter, water, and basic survival needs to, keep your first house body alive, and your possessions. And you're letting go of something here. And if you go back to 2003, April, and you then all the way to the end of 2004, you were also letting go here, letting go of your earnings, letting go of your possessions, letting go of your worth and value, changing your values, letting go of your voice and vocation and calling, letting go of foods that you shouldn't eat and drugs and substances you stick in your mouth. So you're doing a lot of these re-letting goes in this part of your sky all over again. And if you can remember back then, you might get a feeling for it. This eclipse is a new moon, so it can be a new beginning, but it can also be an ending. All beginnings and endings happen with new moons. So new beginnings, because endings are also happening. Back in May, there was an eclipse in your second house. What did you come to? Fullness, fruition, harvest, and maybe completion around the idea of your voice, calling, earnings, vocations, things you put in your mouth, food style, things like that. Okay. And Venus corrupted here is not good for your money. She's a money goddess in a money house in a corrupted state. So there can be some challenges with your earnings, some slowdowns, some setbacks, some disappointments. Okay. You might have wanted a raise and didn't get it. You were hoping for a promotion, it didn't happen. You wanted to up level the wage or the fees you charge people that you couldn't, it didn't work. I don't know, these sorts of things. And the 6 months that follow continue to feel that vibe. Of course, Venus will be visible about December 4th or 5th. And so some of the intensity of the money corruption story or the money disappointment story will wane by December, but you might be in the thick of it as an overall broad brushstroke theme as well in the 6 months that follow. The eclipse itself. Possessions. So like Venus is about possessions that bring you pleasure, luxury possessions as well. And this can be, you'll have to sell like your favorite thing. You need the money. You have to dispossess yourself of something. You can even dispossess yourself of a home. Although possessions that's in the second are often movable possessions, I've seen it be your home. So basically you could be in the 6 months that follow having to sell a property of some sort, maybe not wanting to, but needing to for some reason financially. All right. Especially with the November eclipse, we'll get to that in another one, but that could be a big tax hit or some liability or a mortgage failure or something like that. I know it's not sounding good. I'm sorry to be a downer, right? I'm a little bit of Debbie Downer on this eclipse reading for everybody because I can't pretend that it's all a bed of roses. It sure isn't a bed of roses. And what else can I tell you? You could also look at this as a values release program. Like, what have you always thought was a true value and what did you value? Venus is about what you desire and value. And this is a house of values, and you're letting go of some old values that no longer work. You always had a value for this honesty. Now you have honesty, schmonesty. Only the liars get ahead in life. I don't know, but you may dump a value and be jettisoning the baggage of a no longer useful value, a disappointment with a value or something like that. Speech. Venus is in a house of speech. This is where speaking happens. You could be having to speak something into a situation in a way around the 6 months that follow, or continually message or speak something into the world that is a very harsh message, that Venus is like, gnarly here. So a harsh message about love, harsh messages about money that you'd be speaking out for some reason to the world. All right, moving on. Good luck with that, you Libra people. Scorpio, okay, this is your story, right? Like, buckle up. Good news is that Mars, the Lord of your sign, is hanging out with lucky stars, Alno Tack, out in the Lamb with the Ryan's belt, and trining, Mercury with Spica. Side story looks good around the time of the eclipse, but the eclipse itself is you being a leaky tire in yourself. You, your identity, your health, your body, your personhood are leaking air ever since this eclipse cycle started, especially the yoke of it, right? Which is January 18th of this year till July of next year. So you're really having to see that you are really winding down, surrendering, letting go, and releasing. And you are, maybe watch your health. I mean, South Node transits through the house of the body can bring health challenges, but they're often ones that we have to look at. Like, we need to look clearly at how, if we have a health challenge here, we're bringing it on in some way. Often it's our own self-undoing, you know that? So there you go. So I need to get more comfortable. Anyway, okay, so Venus in Scorpio, right, is not happy here. Vladimir Putin is born with a Scorpio rising and Venus is Scorpio. So you guys are like experiencing yourself as a Vladimir Putin moment, whatever he means to you, right? Some people he's an evil dictator assassin, and other people he's like, whatever, something positive. But yeah, so you're very Putinesque here. And Scorpio Venus here is like, you may be very disgruntled with your appearance, unhappy with yourself, displeased with yourself, finding no pleasure in being you, finding yourself having to adopt sneaky or secretive behaviors around money and love that you don't normally do, because now Venus is baking in an eclipse over the next 6 months in your house of your identity. It certainly is a bit of a challenge here for you guys. There's no doubt about it, to be embodying a kind of corrupted Venus file, or to have it, impact you more personally. And if you're a Scorpio rising in the first 5 degrees or 6 degrees of Scorpio even, well, you're definitely getting the most challenge for your buck here, for sure. It's definitely hitting you guys much, much harder. And there's been tension maybe and challenges in your relationship to grow it larger if you have a significant other. And, you have to sort of empty out you into the other person. They may be demanding more of your attention than normal. That happens with this eclipse cycle across 1-7. So keep that in mind as well. Like suddenly your partner's high maintenance. You're like, WTF, and there's no energy for yourself left over maybe. What else can I tell you, Scorpio? It's definitely not a good time to do cosmetic surgery in the 6 months that follow, or any cosmetic procedures, because you've baked in a corrupted Venus, goddess of beauty, in detriment under the beams of the sun. Energetically over the next 6 months, I would withhold from those directions of beautifying cosmetically yourself. And also avoid sneaky behaviors around love and money if you can, because that could bring you into contact with that darker part of yourself, this more secretive scorpionic side. First of all, people often confuse privacy and secrecy. I think a lot of what Scorpios are deeply private individuals, but secrecy is another element of privacy. We don't tell everybody everything. We keep it a secret, but some secrets are needed and some are toxic. So Venus secrets are love secrets or money secrets. So be careful around being the holder of those secrets when you might find yourself doing that by default in the 6 months that follow the eclipse. Okay. Watch your health, take care of your health during this eclipse cycle. And I don't know if I reminded you, but April of 2003 to December 2004, end of the month, end of December, you went through that 18-month cycle back in the day. So it's not the first time you felt this. There was a full moon eclipse in the house of you in the middle of May, big shine light on your body, your health, your personhood, your identity. That eclipse may have helped you start to turn around your health, but I'm not sure how that went for you. Okay. I mean, goodness gracious. All right. And Mars is in the house of shared resources with he's your Lord of your sign, with other people you're involved with. So again, watching out, and also the house of secret love affairs, but he's under lucky stars. So there's that too. Okay. Moving on. I'm just saying, avoid being secretive about love and money in the 6 months that follow the eclipse. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign, you fiery people. If this is at all noticeable by you, I'll be surprised, because it is your 12th house. Really hard to see as an inversion. You can't witness it. It has a lot to do with dreams at night, meditation, reverie, inner insights, past life karma, self-undoing and addictions, secret enemies, and backroom deals. Now, Venus can be a female enemy, secret enemy, hidden enemy, right? Data corrupted Venus, in doing things on the side of you that you shouldn't, you can't see it, but they're not good for you, right? So you want to watch for trusting women, and I don't want to make you paranoid, but trusting women in the 6 months that follow, or especially women from foreign lands, or events and trips on foreign shores, dealing with foreign shore matters, or females from foreign lands, or all that shit that could be undermining you. And therefore this eclipse is maybe a part of that kind of a narrative. Now, addiction, self-undoing, and Venus, a goddess of pleasure, this could put you in a grindy, pedal to the metal, gnarly kind of showdown with your own pleasure-seeking, self-sabotaging addictions. And in the 6 months that follow, Venus is, winning, actually. I don't think that a corrupted Venus is going to help you undo those addictions in the 6 months that follow. But you had a full moon here in May, and maybe it made you aware of, you were drinking too much wine, smoking too much weed, vaping too much nicotine, whatever it was. You realize, oh, watching too much Netflix all night long. You realize, this isn't good for me. And so now you're coming into this kind of crunchy time in the 6 months that follow this eclipse, where you're following up on some of that stuff, trying to get off to a new start. Now, good news is that Venus will be visible in early December, and maybe in evening star, very benefic position for her. And she may be able to help you turn the corner on that, but you might have to go, get worse before you get better, or go down to the bottom of a pit before you can climb back up, around addiction, self-undoing, self-sabotaging stuff around your life. All right. A female in a hospital, a female with an illness, can be a consequence of this eclipse. So you may end up having to go to the bedside of a hospitalized female friend in the 6 months that follow the eclipse. That's just one way it could play out as well. Okay, I hope that's useful. Good luck with that. Sag, go back again, 2003, April to the end of 2004. How did this play out for you back then? It's a moksha house. Spiritual liberation is here, the full Monty, the Buddhahood, and South Node has got that vibe anyway. You might have to let go of, your pleasures. This could actually make you very aesthetic or very renunciate. You could go into a monastery, ashram. You might be wanting to go into a travel to a foreign land to get down with God, a guru, a teacher, get down with your spiritual life, let go, be contemplative. This is a call that could happen for some of you, Sagittarius, in the 6 months that follow this eclipse. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. The eclipse is a cycle of eclipses that happened in 2003, April to the end of 2004. They are back again. This South Node eclipse cycle is in your 11th house of friendships and groups of belonging. And there's no doubt about it. You're releasing yourself from spaces of belonging. Friends are falling away during the cycle of Scorpio eclipses. The yoke of the eclipse is January through to next July. January 22 to next July, but peripherally started in November of 21 and ends in the fall of 23. So it's a wholesale reduction, letting go and emptying out of people that you used to belong to, groups of tribal belonging. My ex-husband is a Scorpio rising, and I bet you any money he's totally ditched a bunch of his friends during the COVID, and he's got a new marriage, and maybe, I don't know, he's just not socializing or something, but he used to belong to like the dance community and Five Rhythms and stuff. And I bet you since this eclipse cycle started, a lot of that stuff is falling away in his life. I've just bet. And so, you could also have an ending of your dreams and your aspirations and hopes and wishes. I know, like, there's a quality of the future-oriented part of the sky is that 11th house. And you may have had to let go of some disappointment of some of your longer term visions and long range plans for your life during this cycle, where you come to terms with more of a sober reality, right, of what's possible, because Saturn's been moving through your second house. So money earnings and financial constraint may have been pulling you away from some of your biggest dreams and hopes and wishes that you wanted to have happen. And now you're having to let go of those dreams and hopes after all. Women friendships, who are friends, this could be a letting go of some of those female friendships in the time of the aftermath of this eclipse, or karmic love relationships, okay? South Node Venus. And those karmic love relationships or friendships or females could come to an end in your life over the 6 months of this eclipse as you let go of that relationship. Especially if it started off in a group setting, like, you met your partner in like a church or a class or a group of belonging, because that Venus is up in that part of the sky. Not a good time to start a new relationship, especially in those groups of belonging, because it's a corrupted data file Venus here. Pennies from having windfalls and great gains from your career are 11th house. Venus is with a South Node eclipse. It's like disappointments. In the 6 months that follow, maybe you were hoping for a promotion, a raise, or greater financial gain from your career efforts. And I don't think you're going to get it then. I think it's going to continually, this is a place of letting go. It's an emptying out. You had an eclipse here in May with a full moon light in this house. Where did you notice? What did you see? Where are these great career gains and perks and rewards and promotions and greater financial gain? Where are they disappointing you? And can you see it clearly? And, is the juice worth the squeeze in the work that you're doing right now? Something might be having to be let go of, okay, here in the workplace as well, because it's connected to your 10th house. Especially Venus is ruler of your 10th house, and she's in this, bad rave scene, as I keep joking. With bad music and bad drugs. So yeah, career disappointments can be a part of this, and career challenges because of this eclipse in the 6 months that follow. And you might, specifically let go of one female friend or ally who disappoints you, right? Doesn't have your back, lets you down in the 6 months that follow. This is a house of the eldest sibling. Okay, not your older sibling, the eldest sibling in your family. So this can be some serious money and love and kindness and friendship disappointment energy with an eldest sibling in your life in the 6 months that follow the eclipse. Okay, this is me, guys. I'm one of you Aquarius rising people. My ascendant is co-joined by the South Node in Saturn. It makes me a very sober-minded, wise woman. And also other things. So a solitary loner as well. Oh my God, I need to stretch. See, I'm not at my desk. I'm visiting a friend in Ontario. And next time I do this, I got to lift this laptop way the heck up. All right, moving on. We Aquariuses are experiencing the eclipse cycle in our 10th house of career, especially if you're sun, moon, or rising is in the first 5 degrees. This particular eclipse on October 25th has more import for you. But I talked about me in the beginning, the last time this eclipse cycle happened in 2003, April to 2004, December, I let go of my career path as a psychic reader and a psychic medium. Okay. And I moved countries as well. You can't make that stuff up, right? Because, 10th house, 4th house can change your home as well. Axis. And I moved from the United States back to Canada. So all of us Aquariuses are having a leaky tire in our career, ambition, success, and reputation house. And it's really about releasing, surrendering, and letting go of some career direction and visible career path that we've been on that's no longer viable. Now, I'm a writer, screenplay writer, fiction writer, award-winning fiction writer, yada, yada. I want to get back to doing more writing. So maybe I will let go of some of the astrology I'm doing. I love my astrology clients. I always love my clients, but maybe I'm going to have to cut back, or maybe I will cut back to hardly any readings a year instead of what I've been doing. And that gives me time to write, because I do love making YouTube videos. I don't think I want to quit that. So you'll see, and I do love teaching classes. FYI, I'm not promoting anything in these videos, but at the beginning I did tell you about my Sky Reader class, so come jump aboard. But there's no doubt about it, Aquariuses. We are, first of all, we have Saturn in the house of us right now, and been there for 2 years, won't leave till next March 2007. We're bottom line being very Saturnian, realistic, sober-minded, disciplined, focused, hardworking, and we're trying to improve our health. This has been going on for a lot of us Aquariuses over the last 2 years, and it's going to continue till next March. And in light of that, we're being Saturnized right now and experiencing our own Lord, Saturn, Lord of Aquarius, not a Uranus, that's the modern interpretation, that we are in a tough time already as we kind of sober up, adult up, and grow up. And all of a sudden, these eclipses are also saying, yeah, and none of that career thing anymore. Like, let that part of your life fall away. It's time to let that career path go. You go back 2003 to 2004. And it's kind of like with a corrupted Venus data file, it could be a monetary disappointment in something we've been doing in our career, whether you're employed or you employ yourself, it doesn't matter. Our visible career could be a disappointment, or a female in our career space disappoints us, or a boss is giving us a hard time who's a female, or, you know, simply the love of our career is waning. Venus is, what do you love? What do you love? Who do you love? What do you love? And she's got Scorpio under the beams of the sun, corrupted energy up here. She's not in a good condition. And she may be feeling unhappy with what is going on here. And you may feel grumpy and unpleased and not pleasured by your career. And therefore, you know, something's got to change. And so a lot of us Aquarius is on the steering wheel free ride called eclipses through our 10th house, are being asked, forced to even let go of a visible career path that we've been on. It's the worst type of eclipse to ask for a raise if you have a promotion raise up your sleeve desired. So, you know, you could even get a demotion, or you could get the promise for the raise or the promotion not happening. So the 6 months that follow this eclipse with that Venus position, Venus can represent the perks of the job. And, you know, that looks like some of those perks or promotions or raises that could happen in the 10th house are going to be withheld or pulled back or retracted or just not happen at all. So there's that kind of disappointment there as well. You know, what can you do, really? Certainly a female boss colleague could also cause a lot of yucky, gnarly tension for you in the 6 months that follow this eclipse. So I wish all of us Aquarius is the very best of luck here as we are in the process through to really the middle to end of next year, letting go. Next eclipse in our 10th house is next May, May or March. Let me go back and look. Wow. The next eclipse in this part of our sky is next, brains offline, May 5th next year. So it's not a done deal yet, guys. We've got more to go. Okay, let's keep going. And the last but not least sign, it is the Pisces sun, moon, rising sign people. Pisces, this is a flowing trine to your identity from the 9th house of God. Not all so bad. And if you're a Pisces rising sun or moon in the first 5 degrees of Pisces, it's actually quite good for you, because it'll flow some love up energy in a applied trine to your identity and your body and your health. Now, foreign lands, foreign shores, courts, legal cases, visas, passports, travel, book publishing, academia, learning and studying, teaching. These are 9th house storylines: faith, hope, belief, religion, spiritual philosophy. And you are losing air here because this eclipse cycle started to wake up this part of your sky back in the peripheral eclipses started in November, but the kernel of eclipses started in May. Well, May, there was an eclipse here in May, right? Sometimes it's a loss of faith when this happens, having to really look at what you believe is true about God, life, your own life, the meaning of life. You might be going through a spiritual crisis, basically, especially those first 5 degree people. With this particular eclipse, you might have a female pastor, minister, guide, mentor, teacher disappoint you. You may find that corrupted money here is like disappointments financially in legal and court affairs. The courts are up here, legal court cases are up here. Love with somebody from a foreign land, foreign culture, belief, or religion is corrupted love now. All of a sudden it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to. Not a good one to start a relationship with someone from a foreign shore. And, you know, Venus is really sweating bullets here, not happy. Go back to 2003, April, to the end of the month of December 2004, when you also had to let go of that 9th house. Now, it can be about foreign lands and foreign shores to one's homeland. So maybe you had to let go of something to do with foreign lands and foreign shores back then. My sister's a Pisces rising, and I think in that last eclipse cycle, she might have No, she wasn't moved to the USA. No, she started dating a guy in the US back then, though. But I'm just pondering aloud what could happen for her. So this can be having to let go of a foreign land. So my sister Cindy is a Pisces rising and lives in the United States, but she's born in Canada. So this cycle could be asking her to up and leave the US and move back to Canada, for example. And the eclipses continue through this part of the sky for someone like her, Pisces rising, really all the way to the end of next year, right? No rush there, but there's this pull away from a foreign land, away from academics. You know, you wanted to sign up for a course, or you're in the middle of taking your PhD and you realize you're done, you can't finish it, you're going to let go, let God, release, surrender that part of your sky. You know, same with book publishing, you give up on finding a publisher for the book, or, you know, there's disappointment in that part of your sky. The judges don't rule in your favor in the court situation. Yeah, you can't get the visa you want, whatever. The trips to foreign lands are called off. No pleasure here. Venus is not in good shape under the beams of the sun, in a sign of her detriment. This is a house of the father, or a father-like figure, and in Vedic astrology. So you might find, and it's also the house of the third marriage in one of the Vedic astrology techniques. People try to correct me on that. I'm using a particular school of Vedic astrology. So disappointment, loss, and surrender around a third marriage. Disappointment, loss, and surrender around a father or father figure or father issues. Right. The house of God is a patriarchal house. It's a house of the father. And yeah, loss of faith in religion, or loss of faith in the divine intelligence having your back, or some stuff like that. All right, that's about it, Pisces. But don't forget, you know, there was an eclipse here in middle of May. And so you've already shone a light on this part of your sky, May till now. And now it's going to be a new moon, a new beginning, and also an ending as possible around that ninth house stuff. So let's see what happens. Keep us all posted. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this eclipse video. Don't forget, like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. And I have a contest. So if you subscribe, tell me in the comments, or join my newsletter, Cosmic Moonshine, and you're entered in the contest October 31st for a free 10 prizes, free readings, free courses, giveaways, half price stuff as well. I'm done. Post-COVID brain, I got through the whole thing. Thanks, guys, for listening. Like, subscribe, hit my bell for notification. Come join me in my Sky Reader course. Starts October 15th. A few spots left. Ciao, ciao. Mwah.